Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jim Langley, your host. I've got two videos now, reviews of these LightFast CSP wide version wheels. Very nice wheels, 1123 grams, which is super light. I have everything I need to set up the wheels now. It took a while to get the parts in for whatever reason, but I have everything now. I'm going to set the wheels up today, put the disc rotors on, I'm going to put on the cassette, and I'm going to put new tires on. But I've run into an analysis paralysis situation right off the bat, which has to do with the tires. And the tires, I got Pirelli tires, which I've had great luck with. They ride fantastic. They just roll. They feel like they have life to them, like a springiness to them. Just really nice tires. And I have been running them in 30 millimeters. I've had some in the 25 to 27 millimeter range. And on these wheels, because the rims are so wide, I wanted to go with a 40 millimeter tire. But when I went to put, and you'll see it if you look in the video where I test tires on rims to check out how they go on and off, I discovered that these new Pirelli tires are pretty tight on these rims. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the Pirelli tires from another set of wheels I have, which are the 30 millimeter ones, and see if they go on any easier than the other ones. If they do, it tells me that they've downsized these 40 millimeter tires, made them smaller than the previous tires they made. So I'm going to do a little test. If these 40 millimeter tires are just too tight, like right now they're too tight to get off my hand. What that means is if you're out on a ride and you get a flat tire, it's going to be very difficult to get the tire off the rim to fix it with a spare tube. So the best option in that scenario is I'll run them tubeless. But if I can get these tires on and off the rim by hand, I'll run them with TPU tubes, just because the convenience of TPU tubes and the lightweight, that's thermoplastic urethane, a very thin tube, weighs next to nothing. It takes up almost no space. And to me, it's a superior option to sealant because sealant dries out over time. You have to keep adding sealant. But in any case, we're going to do a quick test to see if it's the tire has changed. That's what I want to find out. And if the tire has changed, then I'm going to go with sealant because I still want to run the 40 millimeter tires. I just wanted to explain that as an example of the analysis paralysis, why you might choose tubeless over TPU tubes. That's a big one. With a tubeless tire, if you get a flat and there's sealant inside there, the sealant usually fixes the flat. But if the sealant doesn't fix the flat, you can carry a simple little tool. I like the ones from DynaPlug. And it's just like a car tire. You stick a plug in there, you pull it back out, the plug seals the hole in the tire. I have a video about their products where I show how it's done. And you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to take the wheel off. You just take this little tool out, you put the little plug in the tire, and you're back riding again. So tubeless makes sense, and you can use it that way. And then if you do have to take the tire off, like when you wear it out, you just do it at home where you have the tire levers and it doesn't matter. You know, you don't want to have to do this on the side of the road if it's raining or it's freezing cold, if the tire is a hassle to get off. So that's what we're going to check out first. I'll show you, we'll try a 30 millimeter tire and see how easily it goes on and off these rims. And that'll tell us something. So here's a little test we're going to do. This is the new tire, the P0 40 millimeter tire. And here's a P0, the same tire, a P0 model Pirelli, which is only 30 millimeters. So this has already been mounted on this wheel, so I'm going to take it off the wheel because I know it goes on nice and easy. And then I'm going to try this one. We're going to compare the fit of the tire. Just go around and get the bead off the side of the rim. These tubeless tires, the tire bead pops into a little lock. Break one side free. The test is, how easy can you get this tire on and off the wheel? You want to get all the air out. Once all the air's out, in an ideal world, you don't need anything but your hands to get the tire off, which is the case with this 30mm tire. Comes right off, no problem. Now we'll try out the 40mm tire. Not going to worry about direction. I'm not going to put a tube in. I'm just going to put the tire on, and then I'm going to take it off. See if it works like the other tire. One side on. The other side on. The one on. Pretty easy. So now, it went on pretty easy. Can we get it off just as easy? Now, if we can't get it off by hand, we could use tire levers. That's okay as long as it's easy to get it off with tire levers. The first step, you want to always make sure that the beads are in the middle, not on the sides, but in the middle of the rim, as that's the deepest portion. That's your best chance to be able to roll it off the side. And they're right smack in the middle. But it's much harder. You want the tire to be able to sit in the middle of the rim, which gives you slack because you're in the smaller diameter of the wheel. It should allow you to lift the bead, at least get it up close enough that you can roll it over the edge with the palms of your hands, the heels of your hands right here. But this is significantly tighter on this rim than that other tire. I can almost reach the top of the rim, but not quite get it over. So in this case, if I can't get it off with my hands, most people are not going to be able to get it off with their hands. So at this point, you would take it off with tire levers. In one of the videos where I take the tire on and off, I showed this. This is a Topeak tire lever. It's a nice one. It's made out of hard plastic. It's got two pieces that fit together. And this one has a nice tip to help you get underneath the bead. And you can see how tight it is. There you go. Now that we've got one side off, we'll try again, see if we can get just this one bead off by hand instead of both beads. But you just can't get it up high enough. You can't get this to stretch far enough to come up and over the side of the rim. I might finally have it. Yeah, it's just too tight, which means you have to use your levers to get the other side off too, which is kind of a royal pain because you went through the battle to get the first side off. Now you got to start all over again on the other side. There we go. Just need a little help. Let me show you. This 30mm tire again. Look how easy that first side went on. So easy it wants to come off. Okay, it's on. I'll get it down in the middle again. Now we can grab it. Pull up on it. You could go around the rim and squeeze the tire so that the beads go down in the middle. Watch what happens. See that gap between the tire and the rim? That's how the tire is supposed to fit. With that gap, makes it easy to take the tire off by hand. So it's difficult to measure tires. They don't really have a way to do it accurately, but the most likely reason that these tires fit differently is because this tire is smaller diameter than this tire, which in my opinion is a mistake. Tires should fit the same. You shouldn't have to have a battle to take a tire off, especially if it's the same tire as a tire that fits nicely. I think the manufacturers do it because they're worried about the tires blowing off the rims. But it doesn't make sense because as you put on wider and wider tires, the pressure is lower and lower. There's more air inside, more volume, but there isn't any reason the wider tire should roll off more than the higher pressure, narrower tire. So now that I know that I'm going to have to run these tires tubeless, we can get on with the project. But that little experiment there was important. I know I can't run in TPU tubes because it means if I do get a flat, I'll be on the side of the road with the tire levers working for a while before I can fix it, which I don't mind really, but tubeless would mean less of that. You just ride because the sealant should seal any small punctures you have, and as I mentioned, you can plug the tire and just keep rolling. I don't know how accurate this will be, but I made a little, I don't know, kind of a test jig. I've got a carpenter's square to make sure that my ruler there is straight and adjacent to the tire, and I put the tire in there, and I'm just going to take a quick measurement and see if I can actually notice a difference between these two tires. Maybe I can see it on a ruler. So this is the first measurement. This is the 40 millimeter tire. It's hard to see with the way the shadow is, so I'm going to put a little line in there right where the bead touches the ruler, and then when I take the tire away, you'll be able to see it. So that's where that bead lines up. So I know this isn't scientific, but if I can place the other tire the same way, we should have a comparison. I took the 40 millimeter wide tire that I want to run on these new wheels off the jig that I made. And now I've got the 30 millimeter tire on there. It's not a perfect jig, it's just rigged up to try to get some kind of measurement. Look at that gap. I mean, that's huge. That's why this 30 millimeter tire goes on so much more easily and off so much more easily than the 40 millimeter tire. They're definitely two different sizes. Anyway, that's an interesting experiment that proves that there's a difference between these tires. You can feel it when you put them on and take them off, but I just wanted to see if we could measure a difference, and there's definitely a difference. I think I'll reach out to my contact Pirelli and just ask him what he says. Maybe one of the engineers will give him an answer for why they would do this. The first step is to put rim tape on the rims. This is a Stan's no tubes rim tape, 5 grams per strip per rim, and it's the right width for this rim, so it's wide. You put this on so that if you're running tubeless, this is an adhesive tape, and it seals the holes so the air can't get in there and the sealant can't get in there, and the sealant and air can't get around the tape and escape, so it seals up the tire good and holds the air in. If you're running tubes, the purpose is that it's preventing these sharp edges. The tube with air in it can press down in there and get cut inside here. So this makes it smooth, covers those up, makes it safe for the tube. So we'll put these on both rims, and they'll be ready for tires and tubes if we use tubes. I still haven't decided if I'm going to go tubeless or run tubes. It tells you on the back that this roll is, you can do 4 29-inch rims. This is a 700C, which is about the same as a 29-inch. So you get a pretty good amount of tape on there. We only have to do 2. So we're going to have a lot of extra. I'd rather have extra than not enough. You can see it's sticky. It's because I have a plastic texture. Now we'll come around, we'll find the valve stem. The valve stem's right here. And what you try to do is get it to go straight. And you overlap it a little bit on both ends. Now you want the tape to stick, so I've cleaned this with isopropyl alcohol. You want it to lay flat. So use your fingers, you pull the tape, you try to keep it going straight down the center of the rim. You don't want air bubbles. It doesn't really stretch. I'm pulling on it to keep it tight, try to get anything out of there, any wrinkles. Then I smooth it. If there's an air bubble or it doesn't look good to me, I lift it up, keep trying. Using my thumb to try to smooth it out. Get it to lay flat. It's kind of a slow process to do it nicely the way you want it. Finally get to the other end. So at this point you can just go over it, just double check your work. Make sure around the rim there's no air bubbles. You just want to make sure that if you run tubeless, you're not going to have issues with the sealant getting underneath the tape or the air getting underneath the tape. Like if you had something like this, you'd want to get that out. There's one right there, right at the end. I mean, it's pretty tight all the way around because I kept pressing it with my thumb. If you run tubes, they'll be fine. You don't have to worry so much. But I want to overlap this past the valve hole, which is right there. I'm pulling tight. I'm going to bring it down. I can feel the valve hole with my finger right there, so I know I'm past it. I'm going to bring it over to here. And I'm going to cut it. I'm going to massage it a little more. And you come over here to the valve hole and you want to make you could just wing it and cut a hole here, but I found that you can miss the hole. So what I like to do is make sure I'm in the valve hole and then come from below and push up with a awl or this is like a scribe, a pointer. So I've made a mark there, right there. And we want a hole because we got to get our valve through. If you're not paying attention, you might think that one of the spoke holes is the valve hole. I've seen that mistake before, and you cut a hole over here. Well, you just ruined your tape job. Now the air can get through there. So you have to be careful. Make sure you're putting the hole in the right place. So that's the right place. Now, if we're going to run tubeless valves, the tubeless valves typically look like this. These are the tubeless valves that came with these LightFast wheels. See, they have a little O-ring. And they got a little rubber grommet that goes in there. So you could just shove this through. But again, if I poke it through the hole, maybe I tear the tape. I don't want to rip in the tape out here. So what I'm going to do is take a sharp knife so I can control it a little bit. And I'm just going to make a little cut here. And I'm going to do the same thing here. You can see it's pretty strong. Okay, now you got to pay attention to these things because they work different ways. Different tubeless valves. So this has a little O-ring that sits in a little seat right there. See the O-ring and the little seat? And that's going to go on like this to seal the rim on the other side. This is just the valve cap. So take this off, and then we're now ready to push this through and see how it's going to be completely sealed around the valve. And this rubber grommet's going to go down and make a nice seal right there. So we push it in like that. And if I do decide to run tubes, this will work fine with tubes too. The hole will be right for the tube, but you don't have to worry about the air leaking with tubes. And then you're just going to put on the nut, the valve nut on the bottom. If I tried to put the valve nut with the grommet on the valve nut, I couldn't get it on. So I had to put the grommet on first. See it right there? It's right there. And now I can put it on. And as I tighten it up, and as you tighten up the valve nut, you press down on the top so that it seats into the rim strip. These don't have to be super tight. You don't need a wrench or anything. You just snug it up good with your finger. And now you've got a taped rim and the tubeless valve in position to mount a tubeless tire. That takes a while. I'll get the other rim and then we'll be ready to put on tires. I'm set up to install the tires now, and I decided to go with sealant. Since these tires are such a tight fit on the rim, sealant should ensure that I never have to take them off on the road. I mean, I can do it if I have to, but sealant usually will seal those small punctures and you'll keep rolling. So that's the way I'm going to go versus tubes. With the tires on, we can now install the sealant through the valve stems. I'm using orange seal sealant, which has worked really well for me, and Park Tools injector. You can find charts that show how much sealant to put in based on the size of the tire. You put the valve at about 8 o'clock so that the sealant can drop down to the bottom of the tire. To avoid the sealant coming back out of the valve and making a mess, push the plunger slowly. Don't over-tighten the valve core, or you may turn the whole valve in the rim and loosen it. You can hold the valve as you tighten the core to prevent this. Once some air is in, spin the wheel to disperse the sealant so that it coats the inside and reaches and seals any possible leaks. Sometimes you have to do this multiple times and even ride on tires to get the sealant to fully seal them. So keep trying. I have sealant in both wheels now, and the final step is seating them on the rim, which means to get them perfectly straight on the rim. I do not recommend overinflating tires to do this. If you do that, you can blow tires off the rim and get seriously injured, such as temporary hearing or vision loss. Instead, I recommend doing it by airing the tires up to about 60% of the pressure you intend to run. There are online tire pressure calculators you can use to determine what's right for you and your tires. With the tires underinflated like that, you can seat tires by hand in most cases. This is what I'm doing here. I use my hands to pull the tire up and out of the rim where it needs it until the tire sits right all the way around. There's a little tire seating line on both sides of all tires. That's what you sight when you spin the wheels to check. The last step is to shake the wheel to keep coating the inside of the tire with sealant. You can also bounce the wheel on the floor to do this. Before installing cassettes, put a little grease on the free hub groove so that the cassette will come off when needed. Shimano cassettes like mine come out of the box on little carriers meant to allow you to be able to install the entire cassette as one piece. You can do that if you wish, but I like to install one piece at a time to ensure everything goes on right, because even if only one piece is a little off, the lock ring won't go on. Install the cassette lock ring carefully, as some types have delicate threads. Once all the cogs are in place on the cassette body, I grip them and rotate them forward so that they can't move forward under pedal pressure. This helps slow down the inevitable wear of the cassette body splines. Finish by tightening it to 40 Newton meters. The final parts to get these wheels rolling are the disc rotors, and they're simple to install. Just slip them onto the splines on the hub, screw on the lock rings, which are similar to the cassette lock rings, and even use the same tool. Then tighten to 40 Newton meters and you're done. I'm on a lovely road here in a redwood forest up in Bonnie Doon with a close-up view of the front wheel at speed. These new hoops and tires feel just as fast and lively as I hoped, and I'm looking forward to many more epic rides on them. Next up, let's go over a couple of tips on installing new wheels. It's not that complicated to put the wheels on. The spacing of most wheels today for gravel bikes is the same, so you just put the through axles in and the wheels will fit fine. You might have an issue where the disc rotor rubs a little bit. That's typical because the spacing could be different. You can get shims for disc rotors, little thin shims you put underneath them. However, I find that it's usually just as easy to loosen the two bolts on the caliper, recenter the caliper by squeezing the lever, and then as you squeeze the lever and hold it tight, you tighten the bolts up, and that'll fix your rubbing issues in most cases. Similarly, on the cassette, you might have to make a fine adjustment with the barrel adjuster on the rear derailleur if it's slightly out of sync with some of the cogs. Sometimes the spacing a little tiny bit different might affect your derailleur. But those are sort of the minor things when you switch from one wheel to another wheel set. You can do it pretty quick, and it sure is a nice change to try out different wheels and to dial in the ride with a new set of wheels so the bike performs exactly the way you want it for where you're riding. That's a pretty thorough rundown of the steps involved in setting up a new set of wheels to ride. One cool thing is that the cassette and the rotors, they require the same tool for the lock ring, and they both are tightened to 40 Newton meters, so that keeps it pretty straightforward. The thing that took the longest, as you saw, was installing the tires and the decision of how to set up the tires with tubes or tubeless. I went with tubeless because, as I mentioned, these tires go on and off so tight that I don't want to have to deal with them too much on the road. I'm hoping the Sealant, the tubeless system, will stop the flats, which it usually does, which means that I'll only have to take them off when it comes time to replace the tires. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next video. If you have questions about anything I did today, just drop a comment and ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you have any tips and tricks on setting up your wheels, go ahead and add them too, because that'll interest other viewers. This was a fun project, and I've got a lot more in mind, so look forward to seeing you again right here in the shop.